When I was a young lieutenant in the military in the late 1980s, one of the things that I and others of my cohort were expected to do was take some management training, because even though we worked in a unit where there weren't a lot of enlisted people, we were all junior engineers responding to senior engineers. The assumption was that at some point in our careers, we would be in leadership positions. And therefore, we needed to know how to lead and manage people effectively. One of the points that our training brought up was the observation that humans tend to be wired to notice negative critique and negative interactions more strongly than we notice positive affirmation, positive reinforcement. And they framed this as a survival mechanism. We evolved from creatures that were out in the wild. Everyone had to be attentive to danger. Certainly throughout human history, those conditions have often continued to apply. Overlooking something good that happens doesn't necessarily cost you anything. Overlooking something bad that happens can lead to further trouble. So the point they made was that it's often necessary in military environments to give people feedback telling them that they did something wrong. It's often important to observe proper protocol, proper procedure, maybe just for military cohesion, for unit effectiveness. If you're repairing hardware, it doesn't help to come up with your own instructions and do it yourself. You better follow the written procedures, which have been tested and worked out to prevent you from messing things up. So there are situations in which if you don't use harsh words with people, you're allowing a situation to spin out of control in a way that could be harmful to multiple people. That's not good. So sometimes you have to be firm. But there are a lot of situations in which there's no threat to life and limb, and the way that you correct people can be usefully tuned so that you're not triggering their impulse to get in their heads or get defensive and lick their wounds, but they're able to integrate the feedback you've given them and do better the next time. And no matter how much constructive or critical feedback you really do need to give others under your command, you also have endless opportunities to praise and affirm people for what they're already getting right and what they're doing well. And the observation was that it can take people 5 or 10 of those affirmations to outweigh the one thing that they're holding on to that you told them they didn't do right. I was reminded of this today because a fellow YouTube fitness content creator was praised by another fitness creator for a positive interaction that they had in a gym. One of the commenters below this video said, "I don't understand what all of this is about calling out negative interactions in the gym and praising positive ones. I never see this kind of negativity that people keep talking about. And I don't understand why we're making so much of it, because I just don't see it as a big factor." And I replied very honestly, there doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of it, and you don't have to see much of it in order for it to be having a negative impact on people far beyond what we might consider reasonable, just because human beings have a tendency to focus on the negative. If this doesn't tell you something about my beliefs regarding effective coaching and the way to get people to perform better, I don't often think much about my military career anymore. I exited the service in 1989, and not long after I left the service, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was imposed. So I predate even the time that queer people were officially supposed to keep mum, and absolutely predate the time in which it became much more acceptable for us to serve openly. But I find it interesting the way that even my military service fed into my understanding about what effective coaching can or should be. Absolutely, I'll yell at somebody if I think they're about to do something dangerous. If I feel like I've got to raise my voice to get somebody not to die under the squat rack, I'll do it. Generally, we're not in situations where we need to be that blunt with people. The world isn't going to end if somebody does one or two bad lifts. And if we want them to improve, we can often find ways to encourage them from the basis of what they're already doing well and help them discover how to improve and do even better the next time. The thing that I'm mulling over today is why we don't ponder the aspect of that ties into overall unit effectiveness. Obviously, a military unit has some differences, important ones, from society at large. I don't believe in everyone living by quote-unquote military values. I think a lot of people who talk about that are cherry picking and only focusing on certain things. One of the things that we were taught over and over in officer version of basic training, which isn't as hard as real basic training, but it has some of the same pedagogical aims and outcomes, it is that we're not all supposed to be Rambo going at a goal on our own. We need to cooperate and graduate. And that was the phrase that they used in ROTC summer training, cooperate and graduate. I think that a lot of people in our highly individualistic society these days consider themselves the lone wolf McQuaid or the Rambo who needs to be completely sui generis and do everything on their own. And people consider cooperation, I guess, a little socialistic. And I would remind people that there are plenty of reasons why humans come together in groups and support each other. Not just to be kind and nice to each other, but because it helps us achieve shared goals. Indeed, individual success for ourselves is one way that we can and do contribute to shared goals. And this is one reason why I tend to hammer home the affirming and uplifting side of fitness and encouragement rather than the downside about, hey, look at that person who doesn't know how to squat properly yet. I figure that stuff's fixable. But the way we get to a good fix, that interests me quite a bit.